who plays Jimmy in the film. Paul was Marie's photographer, a dear friend. We're so lucky to have him on set with us. And finally, Rosamund Pike, who gave so much of her life and soul to this role. For me, A Private War is deeply personal and meaningful on many levels, but especially in this era of fake news, when journalists and journalism is under attack. It's an homage to Marie and other reporters out there risking their lives to shed light on dark corners of the world. Today, governments, including my own, attack dissident journalists and openly mock and discredit the press. This only underscores the importance of journalism as a safeguard for a free and independent society. I share our story with you tonight and look forward to returning for a Q&A afterwards. Thank you all so much.
I mean, you obviously could consult with Paul at any stage. Was that a little bit inhibiting, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly on day one, genuinely the only time that I had any kind of issue with the idea of the person they're portraying being there. Just because there's enough stresses on the first day of a set anyway. Without the person you're playing sitting with a set of cans on listening. But I mean, that was really the only point. Beyond that, it was a joy and a privilege and a massive asset to have him there. You know, it sort of felt like cheating in a way that I had this, not only this guy who I admire massively and I'm trying to grasp and do the best I can with, but also Paul is just a brilliant person to have around, you know, not just for me, but for Matt, for Roz, just to have this resource to help, you know, any situation we're trying to depict in the movie, to be able to go to Paul and say, what was it really like in this moment? We've got the script here, and we've done all the research and whatever, but you're the only person here who can tell us what this was actually like, you know. And that was incredible, and beyond that, he's just such a good bloke, anyway, to have around and so much fun, and I can't imagine, I don't think any of us can imagine doing it without him by our side the whole time, so it was amazing.
But it must have been an extraordinary situation for you, Paul, because you made a documentary.
Jesus. Sorry, what?
Did you watch him at work? Did you watch him taking photographs?
Yeah. Paul watched me at work a lot.
He used to watch me in the shower a lot. That was no problem at all. So he told me.
Yeah, you know. Where between takes, Roz is on her phone looking and taking on as much Marie as she can with sound bites and video footage and everything. I mean, I just have the real guy that God is kind of incredible for me, and although he's changed a little bit and he's but you know, the essence of him is still there. But listen, I mean, a total treat to be able to have access to the real man, you know, and photography side of things, I mean, luckily I like taking photographs anyway, but I take a lot of film, I don't shoot a lot of digital, and we did a couple of sort of very loose tutorials in a bar early on to try to get the grips. Paul gave me the real use of a couple of cameras he'd actually had in conflict zones that he trusted me with access to this marathon. But I will say, I think we'll say this to Anne Matt, like all of our jobs were made easier by having Paul there, you know.
Well, I'm going to invite some questions from the audience here, but we've also had a couple of things thrown in from Twitter as well. And actually the first one is for Jamie and Rosamund, which is, well, I don't know how quite, this is Tony from Scotland, it's quite a wide category, and Tony wants to know whether these characters compare in any way to people you played in the past.
Oh, hello. That's right. Is it? I played real people for I think this is my 5th time playing a real person. in the movie, and the first time I played anyone alive, certainly alive and with us for the entirety of the shoot. And I think that added a sort of pressure to it, but also it brought it home even more, you know, that I was trying to, you know, get this portrayal right, and but even if without that, I think Paul's the closest person to me maybe that I've ever played. Whereas like I have all Paul's sort of goofy, you know, silly bits, but I don't have any of his, you know, tenacity and courage and skill really. But all the goofy bits, I think I possess.
The sense of me.
Exactly. But there's someone you're always, for a lot of characters you play, there's something you want to look up to within them often, or a version of you that you'd like to see in yourself. And Paul has so much of that for me. Like he's sort of, there's so many aspects of his character that I would love to possess that I don't really think I do or will. But he's inspiration and someone who, yeah, I think he's the closest in terms of how attached I felt to the character. But I have to say, much of that is because he's my mate.
I don't think Marie's like anybody I've played.
Very well, if Paul and Marie would have had a bit of a giggle when they could, and I think as human beings we all understand the importance of levity in moments of pure sort of terror and heartbreak and sadness, and sometimes you need that release. It's a human instinct, I think, and so, you know, I think that we find that, you know, luckily I've known Roz for quite a long time before we started filming and stuff, so always wanted to work with her. So there was a sort of maybe a camaraderie and a trust that existed before we started, and then luckily it all sort of merged well, and we were able to get through those days. I mean, it was such a tough shoot. This, I kind of, you know, none more so than for Roz, you know, but we did have a laugh sometimes, didn't we? Did we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did. And encouraged by Paul and